Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Now, I have had such a fun day in the sun. It is such gorgeous weather in London at the moment, as I thought I would film one of my feminine intelligence videos just before I head off into the house because I'm in the car, I'm all settled, and you guys know I like to have like sort of my signature background for these feminine intelligence videos is in the car. I just feel like it's so cozy. I love when people film content in the car. I don't know, I just feel like we're friends, we're together, we're just, you know, making memories. I don't have my mic because this is very impromptu, but I want to be better of like just filming whenever I have the inspiration, and I definitely had the inspiration right now because there is a video that I have watched from the amazing, incredible Diana Ross. If you guys know how much I love Diana Ross the boss, I always just think about The Wiz. It's incredible. And I'm obsessed with Tracy Ellis Ross. Like, Tracy Ellis Ross just gives rich auntie vibes. But anyway, you guys know in these feminine intelligence videos, I always use a prompt. I saw this amazing video and I wanted to play it and talk about it because I think the message in this video is incredible. So let's have a listen.
I realize that every time I create a positive thought in my mind, also I create a negative thought. It's just like, I'm going to be very successful. My mind said, oh, no, you're not, you know? Okay, so since I create positive and negative, it's which one I give the most attention that is powerful. When I think positive constantly, it's very powerful and it controls me. If I think negative all the time, it's going to control me too. So right now, my positive thought is there is going to be no disaster to destroy what I have planned for me and my family. And if there is, that's life, you know? And I can accept what I get. My intention is for it to work and to be successful, and I will accept what I get. See, I don't have any choice about what my life is going to be like. The only choice I possibly might have is how I'm going to react to it. You know, and I mentioned to someone the other day that if you've heard that the poem "If," you know, they said something about success and failure. If you treat those two imposters the same, well, that's my plan. You know, I get very emotional all the time. That's my plan. If I'm successful, I want to treat it like I'm successful. And if I'm unsuccessful, I want to treat it the same way. I really do, and that's my plan. I'm getting shook because I feel really emotional about that.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
There's just so much in that, right? There's just so much beauty in that, so much beauty in that mindset. And that's what I say. There is so much wealth of knowledge out there, which is just so incredibly important. And I feel like sometimes in life, we can really take the lessons and, like I said, just streamline our experiences. It's so important. And I just think it's a beautiful thing. But essentially what's being said there, and I think it's very crucial to understand that life is going to happen to you regardless, and the only thing in life you have control over is yourself. And I think also a great strategy for life, and I think it's very important, and there's so much even like philosophy behind this, philosophy about stoicism, which I know is doing really like is very popular right now, and just this philosophy, a lot of religions have this philosophy of being the observer, right? Being the witness, not taking things personally and not having sort of a charged emotion behind everything, and being able to take that step back. And once you're an observer, it's actually very empowering. People might conflate that with, you know, just taking a back seat in your life and allowing everything to happen to you. And I definitely think that, again, this is something that people misunderstand. It's definitely not about, you know, you just being a back driver in your life and just being permissive and just being, you know, basically docile. No. There is something, again, so freeing about understanding that in life, things are going to happen to you. In life, you're never, ever just going to have a free ride. Nobody in this life leaves intact, okay? Nobody in this life, in this earthly realm, in this earthly plane, is going to go through their life without hardship, without problems, without inconveniences, without misfortune befalling them. But the only power you have in your life is how you react and your mindset. There's a difference, again, between misfortune and like pain and suffering, okay? And so, for example, pain could be like, oh, wow, oops, that really hurt, you know, or a bee stung me. Ooh, that's so painful, right? But I actively, you know, I soothe it, I take care of the wound, I put antiseptic on it, right? I put ointment on it, and, you know, I leave it alone, I stop prodding it, I stop playing with it. But if a bee stung me now and I say, oh my God, ow, oh my gosh, a bee stung me, ouch, ouch, oh my gosh, oh my God, can you see, the bee stung me, this is horrible. That's the difference between pain and suffering, okay? The suffering is the mentality, it's the mindset, it's the charged energy that you're putting into it. And of course, in life, many misfortunes happen. Sometimes the misfortune can be so great. Sometimes really difficult things happen in life. And again, I find it so inspirational. You know, when you see these stories of people who are like survivors of something sort of extreme accident or some sort of, you know, very difficult situation that they were a part of. And what always strikes me is the grace and the way that they just carry on. It's this sort of innate strength that they have, which is just so incredible to witness, and it's just so incredible to see. But that, again, it speaks to the difference between pain and suffering. It speaks to the difference of understanding that in life, everything is happening all the time. You do not have control over the outcomes, but what you do have control over is your mindset. What you do have control over is how much you're willing to suffer, how much you're willing to put up with, right? How much you're willing to sort of flip the script in your brain and look at any sort of positives or any sort of way that you can minimize the pain that you're in. I think that's very important. And what I also love about this message is really just the expectation of saying, hey, bad things can happen, yes, absolutely. But even if the bad things happen, I will deal with them when they come. Even if the bad things happen, I am equipped to deal with the situation. And again, that minimizes the suffering. Going back to the first point, it just minimizes the amount of sort of turmoil and angst that you're living in constantly, because anxiety is excruciating. Living with anxiety is excruciating. And I think a lot of what anxiety is chalked up to is just feeling so scared that you're not in control. Yes, you're not in control. And there is something so freeing about not just understanding that, like saying in my brain, okay, I'm not in control, but knowing that on an existential level, relinquishing the need to control everything, relinquishing this idea that if you do this and you do this and then you do this and you do this, everything's going to work out. Of course, I think it's important to plan. You know, they say if you fail to plan to fail, right? Of course, it's very important to plan for your life. It's very important to understand, okay, cool. In life, if you don't plan, if you don't tie your camel, if you don't, you know, look at the logical conclusion of what's going on, you can't be shocked at the end when things don't work out for you. But everything in life, like I said, is this fine balance. If you take it to the extreme, of course, you're going to be the person, like I said, who's just a backseat driver in their life. But understanding, and again, this is just part of the wisdom of understanding where this applies to you and where this doesn't apply to you. And if you can apply this intelligence and if you can apply this tenet of like wisdom where it's needed to in your life, you will literally be unstoppable. So yeah, just always expecting things. The mind is so powerful. And what you constantly think about, I truly believe you attract. And again, like I said, when it comes to this pain and suffering, the suffering happens in your brain. A lot of times you worry about things that haven't happened yet. You worry about things, and this is the craziest trick of anxiety, where you worry about things where it's like, there is no evidence that that thing is going to happen, but your mind is constantly fixating on it. That's why I say your mind is playing games on you. And being able to train your brain and really just like, it becomes muscle memory after a while, where you're just like, no, like you stop the anxious thought right in the beginning, right? Or you even talk to yourself and you say, hey, look, there is no evidence that this thing is going to happen. There is no evidence that I can see in my life that this thing that I'm so anxious about, I've got myself worked up into a tizzy about, is actually going to happen. To be honest, 9 times out of 10, there's evidence to the contrary that that thing could never happen, would never happen, should never happen, has no chance of happening. But again, sometimes when you're living in this anxious state where you are not grounded, where you are not doing your meditation, your breath work, where you are not actively trying to self-soothe and really looking at ways that you can develop yourself and having these coping mechanisms where you can self-soothe, you're going to be prone for anxiety. You're going to be prone to stressing about things. You're going to be prone to having this sort of frenzied energy. That's why I say it's very important to tap into source, whether that's praying, whether that's meditating, whether that's going on great gratitude walks, whether that's journaling, whether that's doing breath work. All of this stuff is not woo-woo. It's very important. It is very important. And the reason why I say it's important is because It grounds you in reality. When you're focusing on your breath, you're focusing in the moment on breathing in, breathing out. Your awareness is heightened, right? Your grip on reality is heightened. It's so important that you have these tools in your arsenal. Like, you have these weapons in your arsenal that you can attack life, that you can be able to deal with just the uncertainty of life, and it's not going to break you down. Because relinquish this idea that you constantly need to control everything around you. You can still have a great life without control. You can still have a great life where you are assured in the fact that whatever happens to me, I will deal with it. And I just love what Diana Ross said about, when I think positive thoughts come to me, right? Positivity comes to me. I just don't even put it in my brain that I won't succeed. I just don't even put it in my brain that these bad things are going to happen to me. I just refuse. I refuse to let that be the mentality that I have. I'm always going to be successful. I'm always going to have some level of success. And when you believe that, 100% it happens. When you truly are embodied, you're not just saying it in a flippant way. You're not just saying it in a way of like, I'm great and everything's great and everything's perfect. And again, this is where you become like sort of not so grounded in the reality. And when your energy is quite fickle, you're going to be disheartened at the first sign of things not going your way. You're going to be like, oh my gosh, it's a disaster. Let's pack it up. And then you're feeding into these anxious thoughts. And then it's just like a vicious cycle going over and over again. Just knowing, hey, whatever comes my way, I will deal with it when it comes, if it comes. If it indeed does come, I will deal with it. I'm going to be successful regardless, because success and metrics of success, that's an internal job. We all have our own individual metrics of success, but one universal metric of success, regardless of how much monetary gain you have, regardless of the house you live in, the car you drive, regardless of any of that fickle stuff or that superficial stuff, the universal metric of success for everybody that we all judge everybody to this standard is how happy you are, right? How content you are, how embodied somebody is, okay? Whether or not they have this frenzied energy or whether or not they exude this confidence, right? I feel like this is what we envision adulthood to be. When you were a child, I used to envision adults as like, they just know things, they're just confident and they're embodied. But when you grow older, you realize that age has nothing to do with transcending into adulthood. You could feel like a teenager. There's some people who say, I'm a 29-year-old teenager, I'm a 32-year-old teenager. And like, even now they're doing more and more studies where they're finding out that your prefrontal cortex doesn't actually develop until 32, which I think is very interesting that they've only come up with these studies now, because I think to me, it just makes so much sense that age and chronological age really hasn't got much to do with how much of an adult you feel, how much confidence you have. Confidence, I really do feel like, is a muscle. You have to build it. And the way that you build confidence is through competence. And again, I feel like there's just this element of competence where you understand, I will be able to deal with anything negative that happens to me. I am going to be fine regardless. So I might as well enjoy life now. And when you have that mindset, you're not in this constant state of suffering. You're not in this state of anxiety where you can literally stop and smell the roses, right? You can stop and say, oh my gosh, life is so great today. You're not worried about tomorrow because you're embodied in today, right? You're happy with what you've got going on right now. So yeah, I just, again, it struck me, this video, not only just how well and how articulate Diana Ross is. Of course, Diana Ross is the Diana Ross we're talking about at the end of the day, but just the mindset. And I think a lot of life and a lot of the enjoyment that people have in life is down to one thing. It's down to their mindset. It's down to the mindset that they have. Like I said, we can all come up with 1,000 reasons why our lives could be terrible or our lives could be much better, right? We can all come up with 1,000 reasons of why we should be suffering, but constantly looking through the rearview window, right? Like the rearview mirror, you need to look ahead at where you're going, and just understanding that you are equipped to deal with whatever life may throw at you. Like, it's in Forrest Gump, it says life's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. But just knowing that, okay, whatever chocolate I get, I'm not going to have an allergic reaction. I'm not going to choke right? I'm going to be able to say, that was a little bit bitter, or that really wasn't to my taste, and understand that the next chocolate that I pick up is going to be much better. The next chocolate that I pick up could be the best piece of chocolate that I've ever had in my life. So yeah, I loved the ethos of that video. I think it was such an important video. I loved it, and I just wanted to leave you with that little tidbit, like that little tidbit of, you are prepared for whatever life is going to throw at you. Don't ever feel like, you have to be stuck in this plane of suffering, that you have to be stuck in this mentality of life is going to be terrible, because you're judging your life based on all of the sum of your negative experiences. Shift your thinking. Say, look, I've been able to survive all of this that's happened to me. I'm still intact, and I can improve. I can get better. I can soothe myself. I can heal myself. Yes, of course, I'm still going to see the scars, but the scars are going to heal. And I get to have a great life. Say it with me. I get to have a great life. Good things are coming my way. Manifest it, believe it. We are so anxious all the time because we're constantly being conditioned by fearing things, fearing negative outcomes, fearing what could happen in the future, fearing a bad prognosis, fearing about outcome. But what about shifting our thinking and saying, I don't need to fear anything because I am equipped. My body is equipped. My brain has so much elasticity. I'm able to bounce back. How many of us have been able to bounce back from experiences where we literally thought we were going to break, but every single day we healed ourselves. We woke up bit by bit, every single day, edging closer and closer towards healing ourselves, right? Don't ever underestimate how tenacious you are. Don't ever underestimate the human being's capability of being able to bounce back from extreme situations. Our body is constantly in a state of repairing and healing ourselves, right? So again, we can apply that mindset, and we can look at all of the evidence that shows us that you are actually going to be okay and everything's actually going to be fine. Okay, it's important. It's very, very important. But again, just understanding your mindset is 99% of the equation. I love this content, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you enjoy feminine intelligence and this series, please consider subscribing. Please consider liking, commenting. I love you guys so much. Follow me on my socials, rahma.msheikh, rahma.msheikh actually, with 2 H's at the end. And yeah, I love you guys so much, and I'll see you guys in the next one.